Hey there guys, how's it going? Today in this video I'm going to be discussing my Magic the Gathering origin story. Alrighty, so today I'm discussing my Magic the Gathering origin story. So basically how I got into Magic, how I got into EDH, that sort of thing basically, and whatnot. Like, again, I could go into a little bit more depth with some stuff, like saying this is when I was born, and this is where I was born, and and I was raised by da 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 da, and this is da 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 how I was, like went to this school, went to that school. I won't go too in depth with all of that stuff because I think it's not really super duper relevant. I want to say a few things about like some of my childhood just to give a little bit of like context to a degree, because someone asked for this kind of origin thing, and I think a lot of us have our own like how did we get into Magic, and a lot of people are interested in everyone else's like journeys into Magic. But I will just say a few things about like like whatnot, the like more distant past, but I don't want to go too deep into it because again I think it's not that relevant a lot of the time, too much to a huge degree, and it's not that interesting, I don't think, to too many people. Just tell me your whole life story or whatever. But I do think that some of it is somewhat relevant and more like to the story of like why I was getting into Magic. So basically, for a very long time during my childhood, I was a very lonely sort of kid and very heavily bullied when I was, between the ages of 9 and now. But, like whenever I stopped going to school, basically. I think maybe it really stopped when I had finally gone through like college and whatnot, or was getting into college or whatnot, or was getting out of college, because that was like the last time that I was in like proper classrooms and things like that. I never really went to school after that. So yeah, like 2012 or whatever it was, like those I went to like other courses and whatnot, but they were mostly online courses and whatnot after that. But yeah, like I did miss a few years here and there. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, like that's what my whole life was like. I had a few friends here and there. Not that I didn't have any, but realistically, I didn't have very many, and that sort of caused me a lot of strife and a lot of grievance and whatnot during my life, in the fact that I always was like trying to make friends, kind of, I guess, to a degree, or trying to find the people that would be my friends, kind of, and that's one of those things that I really hunger for, friendship. Um, and for many years after I sort of started gaining that ability to be like, okay, well, I can go out and do what I want. I can go out, drinking or whatnot or whatever. Like, I wasn't very much a person that would go out and party or whatnot or whatever. Um, I might go to a party, but I'm not one of those people that's just like, goes silly and does silly things or whatnot very much, like, not like I'm unfun or anything like that, but again, I just don't carry on or whatnot. I like to just sit and listen to music and sort of chill out and whatnot, and just sort of have conversations with people and like eat pizza or whatever, and or play games or whatever. I've always been into games, for many years, and whatnot. Video games, board games, all kinds of different games, whatnot. So yeah, no, I've been into anime for many years and all this other stuff. But as I was getting out of high school, and college, as I sort of said, um, I found it harder and harder to make friends, because even though I was in high school and in college, and I wasn't really making friends, or even when I was in primary school or later primary school, I was still not making many friends. But again, when you don't have those contacts with people. Like, it's very hard to make friends. So it does become like, well, what can I do? Where can I go, to meet people? And how can I actually meet people to become friends with people and get to know people? And where can I go that are places that, will meet people that have common interests? So I did try to go out to some places like bars and restaurants and things like this of a Friday or Saturday night, but realistically, that didn't do me anything. All that did was just like me going there, sitting at the bar, ordering a few drinks, watching other people, do whatever, either sit there drinking, watching their numbers come up on the Keno or whatever, and I'd do that sometimes too, and that's okay, but not that super exciting. Sometimes you'd order your dinner there or whatever, your tea or whatever, and there'd be maybe some people that play pool or put their bets on the horses or the dogs or whatever else, and you might see someone there and you might maybe strike up a conversation with someone, but again, like, without having too many like crossing interests with too many other people, you're not really gonna get that far. And like, no matter how nice you can be, like, again, you can only make it so far with some people, and again, you never know if you're going to see someone again, or you don't plan to really. Like, again, it's also the same with dating. Like, that was the same thing that I was like, well, why am I going to go to these places and do these things to get dates if, like, I go to these places and it's just like, well, there's like 4 or 5, maybe 10 people here, and like, how am I going to approach any of these people? I don't really, like, have much in common with them, and if we don't get past that, like, initial, like, point of like, hi, how are you, and they're like, well, I don't really want to talk to you, I'm like, oh, well, cool, see you later, bye. Like, it's like, well, or if they do say, oh, hi, how's it going, or whatever, it's like, oh yeah, okay, hi, so the weather's nice, like, like, it's hard to sort of find a place to start, and like, it's like, so what are you like, like, what are you interested in, like, type thing, like, how can you get into somebody, like, interest, like that, like, it seemed very awkward to me, and I've always been a sort of semi awkward person, to a degree as well, like that, with like some of that stuff. But I really like what I really like, and that's it. Like, but again, it's one of those things. Like, for a long time, I was like looking for something like related to gaming or related to the things that I was interested in. I'd go to EB Games quite a bit, back in the day. I don't go there much now, but I still, go there every now and again. I heard about like Tazpop and their geek market, at some point, as I was getting out of college, and I decided to start going to that, but that was only once per year. And again, a lot of the people that are there are in cosplay a lot of the time, and a lot of the people are from like Hobart, Devonport, here, there, and everywhere, whatnot. So again, you meet a lot of these people, and you might see them once or whatever. I actually met one person that I did find out was from Launceston there. It's not like we were ever super duper friends, but we did find, like, each other here and there every now and again. We'd keep running into each other. But that sort of introduced me to a few other people, which was good because we kept meeting each other and running into each other. So I started meeting some of her friends and whatnot. So I met more people that I started to get to know, and I'd see them every year at that market and at the AI cons and whatnot. I knew that they had a picnic in the park or whatever it was, like a cosplay in the park or whatever it was that they had going on. I was thinking about going to it, one year, like, and this is many, many years ago now. This is over 10 years ago, I think, roughly. It's because this is like back in 2008 or whatever, I think. So yeah, what's that? That's whatever, I don't know, so long ago, like 2 to get to 10, then yeah, like 12 years or more, 12, 13 years. So yeah, that's a long time ago, really. Whatever. But anyway, yeah, like back then, um, way back then, I was thinking about doing that stuff and whatnot, but it just sort of didn't happen because other things were happening at the time and whatnot. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on at the time as well, so it just didn't happen. A few years ago, I think this was back in like 2000 and like 18, 2016, maybe 2017, somewhere around there. Um, when I was doing some work with somebody who had a business that specialized in comic books and that sort of stuff, I found out about some like stuff that was going on, like between him and another store. Like they had a rivalry or a miscommunication because they had all these um, like they had a shop that was selling anime and manga and whatnot and all this other stuff and whatnot, and he was there selling comic books and whatnot. So he was like going, well, this is not good because like I'm trying to sell the same sort of thing, and I heard that the place that he was going up against was the old Guff, which is even further back in the day as well, again, but still. And so, like I had met him just out of, go because I used to go to Elizabeth Street quite a lot, and there used to be a couple bookstores there. And this guy who run the comic book main side there, he sort of introduced me to that shop by saying, "Oh, this other shop that exists," and I didn't even barely know about it because I heard that it was just. Oh, I might have heard about it, but I heard that it was just like PCs and whatnot, and like it was never a big thing for me to like play PCs and whatnot, and I wasn't very into too many, like not none, but like I wasn't into online playing games that much. I was just like into playing my own like World of Warcraft sort of, or original Warcraft stuff or whatnot, Command and Conquer, some of those like older games and whatnot. I really didn't play much sort of online or whatnot. I had played a little bit of World of Warcraft a little bit, but not much, and some other like online games a little bit, but not much because again, there's always problems with some of that, and it costs money and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, well, another problem. But anyway, through finding out that this store actually sold like comic books and all of this other stuff, I was like, oh, okay, well, go and check it out. And that's how I sort of found out about like Warhammer and all of this other stuff that they had there, like Yu-Gi-Oh and whatnot. And that's how I met like Jesse, who has been one of the mainstays of Guff and Gameforge. And he was one of the coolest guys that I got to meet, and one of my other friends, sort of friends, that I sort of knew for a little while, I keep running into him, met there. Like, we met through that because, he was coming there, and we just started talking about, gaming and whatnot, and Pokemon and all this other stuff. And whatnot. So we just sort of became friends through our mutual interests of Pokemon and wrestling and gaming and whatnot and all that other stuff. So, and we'll see each other every now and again, and we'll, talk for ages about anime and Pokemon and whatnot and all the interests that we have and whatnot. But eventually, like, I saw that they had Magic. I didn't really know what Magic was back then, and it's funny to think like that, but I didn't know what Magic was back then. I didn't know the rarity of cards or anything like that or whatever. I knew cards could be valuable and whatnot because I'd seen like baseball cards and whatnot be valuable. And I said, like I didn't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh. I had played Pokemon in the past, but not a lot. And again, like I didn't really ever know the rules to Pokemon or anything. And I said, I have all these old Pokemon cards at home, which I still had at the time. Are any of them still like, worth playing? Or if I got back into playing Pokemon, because I don't know the rules or anything, would it be worth using any of them? He said no. The sets have all changed, and whatever's legal in, whatever set, blah blah blah, that they had is, whatever's, going to be played. There's no other things. You've got to play tournaments or whatever, for the most part, and it's got to be legal in that format that they're playing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I want to get into something, and I want to get into something that I can just like pick up and play, and I can like build like decks with and whatnot, and just get into and start making some friends and start hanging out or start coming once a week, to play a game on the regular, like I want, or whatever, or even during the day or whatever, just like I'll come in and play. And he said the best thing for you to probably get into was Commander, initially. And I said I didn't even know what that was. And he said, well, the best thing to do is just to get into Magic and start playing and start learning how to play and like whatnot and all of this stuff, and like buy a few packs or whatnot, get some cards, start getting into the game somehow, and just like start doing getting to build a collection of cards so that you can know how to play and what cards do and all this other stuff. So at that point, I bought my first box, or it was not a box, but it was like a deck builder's toolkit, I think is what they used to call them, which he said was like a whole bunch of older sort of sets or whatnot for the most part, at the time, because I think Shadows of Innistrad was already out at this time, but it also contained some older sets and whatnot or whatever. I can't remember exactly what the sets were previously. I opened all the packs that I got in the deck builder's toolkit. It came with a whole bunch of basic lands. I didn't even know what lands were at the time. Again, like I knew how like energy worked or whatever it was, Pokemon energy worked, or I thought I knew how Pokemon energy worked at the time, or back in the day when I used to play it. But yeah, like I knew how it might work, but I just like didn't know what it all was, and I knew that most of the like basic lands probably weren't worth very much. I opened up everything that I had. I had no idea like how to play the game or anything, and I said, okay, cool, I've got a whole bunch of cards now, so like how do I actually play? And he said, well, unfortunately, due to the fact that it's really busy here a lot of the time, I can't really show you how to play. And I said, oh yeah, okay, is there anyone around who can sort of show me how to play? Because I like had all these cards, and I was like, oh, okay, I have no idea what to do with them or whatnot or whatever, at the time. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is cool, great. Now I have all these cards that I've purchased and whatnot. What am I doing with them? And like a few people like said, well, you can try to go and like come in once every now and again and see if somebody will just teach you to play. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's not really that helpful. It just seems like, it's one of those things that it is hard for them, because, again, it is one of those things where at the time they probably didn't have the number of staff, and at the time they did have, a lot more people coming and going and whatnot and that. So I understood to a degree, but it did seem a little bit like, well, you should take, this is part of your business. You should take the time to be like, okay, somebody wants to learn to get into the game. You should be like, okay, cool. We want to make sure you keep coming back and keep spending your money. The only way you're going to do that is if you know how to play the actual game. So, but that's what sort of happened. And I still had my cards and whatnot for a while, and I was looking at selling them because, like, again, I didn't know was what and what was not what, or whatever, what was good or what was not good. Some people would show me like, oh, I think this is good, or I think that's good, or whatnot, and I'd go, oh, I don't know, like, and like I don't know whether they'd point to like what is now I now know is a common or uncommon, but they'd point to a card that is a good common or uncommon, and be like, oh yeah, that's a good card, but like I wouldn't know because I can't remember. This is a long time ago now, and it's just like, oh yeah, my memory's a bit fuzzy with some things and whatnot. But anyway, at some point I was wandering around town and doing some other stuff, um, and just hanging around and whatnot. And then I decided for some reason to go through. I went through Yorktown Square for some reason. Like I was just wandering around and having a look around and whatnot. For some reason, I wandered through there as I was like, because I walked around a lot, and whatnot, and I was just wandering around. So I decided to walk through there because I was like, oh, I haven't gone through here in a while, and thought it'd be a nice little walk because I like to walk and whatnot. And then as I was walking through there, I saw a store in there, Scenic Isle Gaming, and I was like, gaming? Oh, I haven't seen this store before. And I didn't know whether it was like similar to Gameforge or Guff back in the day as it was. So I just decided to check it out one day because I didn't go in there that day because I was like, well, actually I have to actually do this other thing and whatnot, blah blah blah, on that day. So I just kept walking and went and did something else, I think. I can't really remember, but anyway, at some point after that, I went, right, well, cool, I'll go in there and I'll check it out. And I met Jeremy for the first time. um, and I said, like, I want to get into Magic. I've got a few cards, but I don't know how to play. And I know what some cards are, and I looked up a tutorial, I think, like what mana was and whatnot, like at some point, I think during that time, because I was like, well, now that I know there's a store and somebody who can teach me how to actually play, like I actually looked up like how do you sort of play, kind of, and looked up some of the rules, like and what you meant to do, and like now I knew you had like a deck and like that you could play a land and you drew 7 cards at the start of your turn or whatnot and all this sort of stuff, and that you could mulligan and things like that. So I thought, okay, with that amount of knowledge, I can at least go in there and I know sort of what I'm doing, and I shuffle and I draw and whatnot and that sort of stuff. So Jeremy was very kind and had, a bit of time for me one day and said, okay, come in and I'll teach you and whatnot. So, like, I turned up a couple of days later and was like, hey, you said you'd show me how to play. He said, oh, okay, cool. Grab one of these, like, intro decks. And, yeah, that's basically how it started. Like, after that, like, I started getting more and more into Magic after I sort of learned a lot more stuff about how the game worked and what you could and couldn't do a little bit more. And I said, look, I want to get into this game a bit, to Jeremy, and I was like, I want to, find something that I can come to once a week or whatever, and just I have some cards in some sleeves, shuffle them up, and I play. Like I don't want to have to sit here and say, because I found out what like standard was or whatever, or I didn't know what it was called, but I knew there was a format that was basically a rotating format that rotated every year or whatever it was, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't want to be in the format that rotates. I want to be in a format where I go, okay, I have these cards. I can keep them for as long as I want. I don't want to spend too much money. I don't mind spending a bit of money, but I don't want to spend too much money that it's just like, oh, okay, well, I've got to buy $1 million deck every week to keep up with the rotating format that rotates every year or whatever. I don't want to do that. I want one deck or a couple of decks or whatever, and then I want to play them for the rest of the next, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, or for however long I want to play them until I get bored with them. So Jeremy suggested me playing Modern, and I was like, well, I don't have all the cards for it, and I showed him some of the cards that I had from the stuff that I'd bought or from the stuff that I'd opened, and like I said, this is what I've got, and he said, you've got some all right cards here and there. Maybe you should build a deck with them or whatever. And I said, well, what's like the best deck to build or whatnot? What's the simplest deck to build or whatever with like the cards that I've got or whatever, or what can I trade for or whatever, or what can I buy that's just like a simple deck, whatever, just thrown together, the easiest deck to build that's still fairly decent and like I can learn to play and, trade some wins and some losses with or whatever. And he suggested like Merfolk to me, and I was like, oh, okay, that sounds fine or whatever. I didn't really know too much about like anything, and I started learning about tribal decks and things like this and whatnot. I won't go too deep into too much else, but I will just sort of like wrap this story up a little bit here to sort of get us into the last little bit. But I played Modern for a little while, maybe a year or so. I don't really know, maybe 2 years-ish, maybe a year and a half. I'm not really sure. I never really enjoyed it. I never really got it. Like I started to get Magic more and more, and like how you play and things like this and whatnot. And like I kind of got sideboards and theoretically what they're about, but I never really got them per se. I just didn't get it, and just like I never really had fun with it. Like I was just like, how do I win or whatnot? And that's what it always was about. It was just like, like in the beginning, as I said, sort of I didn't know much, and like I wasn't very good at shuffling, and I didn't like know how to shuffle very well. So I would roughly shuffle decks and just be like, sorry, that I don't really know how to shuffle very well yet. I'll just like, because I know cutting was a sort of thing that people did as well, like where they cut your deck, and I just say, hey, if you want to cut my deck or if you want to shuffle my deck, you can go ahead, do it, and whatnot, because they care about randomness and whatnot in those formats. And I said, I'm not trying to cheat or whatnot or whatever to anyone, and I said, look, I'm just haven't really learned how to shuffle really well or whatnot. I'm still trying to learn how to shuffle and whatnot. I've gotten a lot better in the years since or whatnot, but still, like at the time, I didn't really know how to shuffle very well and whatnot. So I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Here's my deck, shuffle it, a little bit, and then if somebody's like, oh, I don't think that's right, I'll say, sorry, I'm not very confident with my shuffling or whatever yet. I'm still, learning and whatnot, sorry. And like I'd say to people, who I'd play in the format, like, who'd say, oh, like I passed my turn or whatnot and things like that. If I'm a bit slow, I apologise or whatnot or whatever, because I'm still just learning. I've only just started playing in the last couple of months and whatnot. Sorry, and things like that. Or this is a difficult decision. I don't know what to do. Sorry. Can I just like think it out just for a second and just like explain what I want to do or what I can do or whatnot and things like that. And just like went through it, but I never had fun like doing it. Like it was just like, here's a tournament, play. And like I changed decks and did different things and whatnot. But I was never satisfied with it, never really like super invested in it. And it really, like when I would play and when like you play Modern, it's a very cutthroat. And the same is true for Standard, Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, Vintage, all the real competitive like formats, Draft, pre-release, like even that is still like it's a more cutthroat environment to me. And it's like people are there to play and to win. Like they're not just there to hang out and talk and have fun and like really like get people into that format. You're either into it or you're not into it to a degree, I guess. And I just was not into it. like as much as they were. I was just not. I'm not a competitive person per se. Like, not that I don't have any competitive nature, because I think everyone does to a degree. But again, I was just like not as interested in like people saying, "Oh, well, that's not the best way to do that," or like you should do this and whatnot, and la 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 la, all this stuff about like this is correct play, and like because people would say, you should bolt the bird and things like this or whatnot, or kill their Manadork, and I was just like, why? And they were like, well, they'll get an inherent advantage, and it's just strictly correctly right to kill their thing or whatnot. And I was just like, well, that just seems poopy to me. Like, like I'd make many misplays, and sometimes not of my own, like, stupidity or not stupidity per se, but like out of me being like, well, I don't want to do anything mean to anyone. I just want to play and have fun or whatnot. I don't want to play these, you know, cards just to like kill people. I want to play cards to have fun, like that. And my mindset, I guess, was wrong in like playing that format, and it just wasn't a format for me, like and whatnot. But again, that was the format that I played at the time and whatnot, because like I didn't know anyone else, and there wasn't any other formats or really any other formats, and I didn't want to play standard or whatnot, and I didn't want to play older formats like Vintage or Legacy, because I was like, well, it's much more expensive and all of this. So I was just like, well, I'm stuck with this for now and whatnot until something changes or whatnot, until more people start coming or until something opens up or whatnot. So I was just like, well, this is what I've got. I've just got to keep playing, or I've just got to keep going with it. And I kept going with it for a long time, and I was just miserable really playing it. And I was just like, it started really coming out in games where I just was like, dude, I don't care about this, and I'm just miserable playing this, and anyone that's going to play is just going to be miserable playing against me, because I'm just like, okay, cool, I play the same deck that I was playing last week that loses to this person's deck every single time. Great, cool. I lose. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Great. Like that was like the whole like time that I was just there. I would be like, cool, I lose every single time to exactly the same decks and in exactly the same way. Like maybe because like I don't take as an aggressive stance sometimes, or I don't take an as aggressive mulligan sometimes, what maybe I should do, or maybe because I mulligan sometimes too much, and it was just like, well, I needed to get more than one land, or I felt like I needed to get more than one land. I needed a decent hand or whatnot or whatever, and I just like, nah, I lose. Like, as soon as you go down to a certain number of cards, you've realistically lost in those formats. And I was just like, yeah, I've lost, but you know what? I'm here for the rest of the night. What else am I doing? Like, I'm going to be miserable one way or the other. Like, I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose. So I either sit here and not play, or I sit here and just say, oh, well, that's the end of that. Let's move on to game 2 or whatever, whatever. And then we finish up, 20, 30, whatever minutes before everyone else. And then we're sitting here bored as piss, waiting for everyone else to finish. So it was never a win situation for me that I just didn't like. And I just was like, dude, I want to get out of this format. Like, why am I playing this format? What's the point in me continuing to go on if I'm not enjoying it, and if no one really enjoys like being and playing the game, with me when I'm playing this format? Because again, I just didn't enjoy it, and I just was like, never really got into like playing the game the right way, I suppose, quote unquote, because I was like, hey, I want to have fun and just want to play random janky fun things and cool things. I wanted to do my own like metagame sort of stuff. Like, I wanted to play whatever I wanted to play. I didn't want to just play a good deck or the best deck or whatever. But unfortunately, within that like format or those formats, you've always seemed to got to play those decks. Because you always play against those sorts of decks. You always play against Tron. You always play against like the best decks. You always play against humans. Things like this. Those very common decks, because people go, well, those are the best decks in the format, so those are what I should play. And again, you see all those other decks that are out there again in the format that people play. So again, it's like, well, I always run into Tron, I always run into Jund, I always run into this, I always run into that. So you're always going to play a lot of these other things, or land destruction, or burn, or whatnot, whatever. You're always going to run into those decks because, again, that's what the metagame falls into being. It just falls into being the same thing as what everyone else is sort of doing, because those are the best decks. They're worked out, they're figured out. People know what to sideboard in against X, Y, and Z, whereas, like, even though I'd learned a lot, even by the end, I still didn't really ever... Like, I understood, like, okay, cool, I'll bring in my Graveyard Hate against a Graveyard deck. I got that, but I was just like, what do I cut from my deck? Like, I don't know, and I was just like, I knew you could kind of put cards in without taking cards out and whatnot, because you could do that against Mill, where you could just, like, put your entire sideboard into your deck and whatnot, and things like that. But I was just like, well, I don't want to just, like, jam 4 more, 3 more, whatever cards from my sideboard into my deck. And, like, again, like, a lot of the time, even though you have those 3 cards, or whatever it is, 4 cards, blah, 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 whatever, your likelihood of seeing those 3 or 4 cards or whatever is fairly low, to be honest. So, again, I wasn't often aggressive enough to be, like, mulliganing down to get that one copy of that one answer card or whatnot, things like that. I never played correctly like that, where it was like, I must beat this person, I must win. Like, I would be always like, whatever, if I don't draw it and I don't get it, I don't get it. Like, that's my mindset of it. I'm not just going to sit here and mulligan and mulligan and mulligan till I've got that one card in hand, or until I basically mulligan till I'm dead or whatnot. I think that that's stupid, so I want to try to just draw into it, and 9 times out of 10 just wouldn't draw into it. So it was like, well, what was the point in, putting it in? Like, do I have to actually just run, like, Graveyard Hate or whatever else just in my main board just because, I can't beat a Graveyard deck? Like, I had fun sometimes with certain decks because I sort of threw them together, but for the most part, I never really had fun overall. And a lot of the people that I had fun, like, playing with were people who were just like, again, they're like me, who were just like, I've found a deck that I like, or a idea that I liked, and just threw cards together in some sleeves, shuffled up, and said, let's play. And I started finding more and more of those people that were like, hey, we want to actually, like, start playing something else, or we want to start playing regularly, and, once a week, once a month, or, we'll come in when we've got time during the day or whatnot, whatever. And I was like, oh, that sounds good, because, like, I'd come in just about every day and just, like, hang out and be like, there's no one here, nothing's happening, what's going on? Like, this is very boring. I wish someone was here to play some games with or something, and things like that. But again, like, it's one of those things that just never really happened until, like, the events were on. And then when more people started coming in and saying, hey, we want to start getting into Magic and whatnot, and things like that, they're all like, we want to get into Commander. And I'd played a little bit of Commander, not very much, not like none, and I'd had fun playing that, but I had, like, maybe 1-2 decks at the most, and I really hadn't fiddled very much with them. I hadn't played with them very much, because I'd bought them and maybe played 1 or 2 games here and there. Like, I played 1 game when I first got introduced to the game, and I was like, oh, that was really cool and really fun, and I really enjoyed it. But unfortunately, there was just like 3 people that played it, and it was like, oh, okay. At the store, at least at the time, and it was like, cool. I really wish I could play Commander. I really wish more people were here to play Commander. I was just playing Modern or whatnot, whatever. I even tried other things for a little while here and there, but I was just never into them. Because I was just like, hey, I wanted to try my own janky, fun, silly, off the wall thing that I thought of, while I was sitting at home, and I thought, oh wow, this is a really cool card that I happened to pull, from the latest standard set. I want to see what I can do with it, or whatnot. And yeah, I have to get 4 of it. And then, yeah, I have to build a deck around it, and the deck has to work. And then, oh my god, it has to fit into the metagame. And all these things. It just never worked out for me, and I just, regretted every decision that I made. And I was like, right, cool. This is why I didn't want to play these more, you've got to win to have anything happen sort of formats where it's like, okay, cool. If I'm just a person that wants to hang out and play games, I should just stick to Commander. But finally, at that point, people were coming in, on a regular basis more and more and more to play Commander. So it was like, cool, finally I can start playing some of my Commander decks and actually start getting, some friendship really going, because people were like, hey, how are you going? And would chat and talk and hang out and be like, do you like this anime, or do you like this board game or whatnot? And we'd talk about different things, and we'd actually form relationships and things like that. When I was with people who played Modern, they were like, very much about like tournaments and like, who am I going to face, and and okay, I'm going to face Tron or whatnot. I've gone 1-2 or whatnot or whatever, or 2-1 or whatever. And so therefore, based on odds, I'll be facing this person, all that sort of stuff. None of that stuff interests me, because I was just like, I'm here to play whoever I play as whoever I play, and I'll probably lose. So it doesn't matter to me. So, I never took notice of where I was. I was probably right at the bottom of the thing, with no wins and all losses. So I was just like, cool, great, whatever, cool. Or whatever, maybe 1 win somehow here and there, and that was it. But again, just no. But finally, as I said, I finally got into Commander got more into Commander because more people started coming in and playing Commander and whatnot. So that was my final journey into actually getting into the format properly, because now I actually had the format where I was like, cool, this is a cool part of the format that I actually like, and can actually go and be creative and build whatever decks I want to build. There's no metagame. I don't have to worry about, facing the same decks over and over again and always lose to them. I can actually be like, hey, look, this guy's got a fairly strong, play that slightly political game or whatnot to a degree, but be truthful to it and be like, hey, look, he's playing a really powerful deck, and I'm just playing a deck that says I punch you in the face with some creatures, and I have 2 2/2s. So that's not going to work out well for me over here, and whatnot. So again, when I got in, it was at least a relief to be like, cool, I can actually play a game that I actually like. And I've got into other games as well along the way. I got into Clank, and I got into some other games and whatnot along the way. But Commander was the game that really got me into sticking to Magic, because if I had if people hadn't started coming in and started being like, cool, we want to play Commander, I probably would have just quit, because I was like, dude, I'm so sick of playing Modern, but it's the only thing that I can play where I can actually come in, have a set deck, whatever, and shuffle up and play. Once people started coming in, that changed though. So I was very happy to start playing with more people who had the same mindset as me, who were like, dude, we just want to, jam some cards in, see what happens, and play, and I want to not have to worry about this rotating format, but we also want to play casually but we all are playing to sort of win, but not like you've got to play 100% correctly and bolt the bird and do this and you've got to do that. And it's still a strategy game, we all know that. But again, you can make your own decisions or you can make political things happen and whatnot. And sometimes that can lead to the most fun and whatnot. So I really enjoy Commander for all those reasons because it really helped me get into like the place where I wanted to be, which was, just hanging out with people and just like meeting new people, meeting some people that I already knew sometimes as well. But, it got me into like being able to express who I really was, like, because no one really got to see who I kind of really am or whatnot, got to like know me more deeply than just like, he's there, he exists or whatnot. And I make some silly jokes or whatnot sometimes and whatnot and things like that. But again, I know that within my own self to know that, I make some terrible dad jokes. But that's one of the things that I sort of did for a long time and whatnot because, again, when you've only got yourself and, whatnot, this sort of thing, it's very hard. And when you want to make friends, the easiest sort of way to make friends is with sort of making them sort of feel at ease or whatnot and trying to make them go, oh, well, this guy seems like he's cool and fun or whatnot. So the best way to do that is with like humor and things like that. So that was another reason for it, plus like a lot of other stuff that I won't super get into in this video, but like again, that was a lot of reasons why I sort of had that sense. And it was also a part of like my grandfather, who was a very jovial and jokative person, but also a lot like me, who had a lot of demons going on in the background, but he used the humor to sort of, keep his chin up, essentially, and keep himself going, which is, a lot of similarities between us in some ways like that. But anyway, that's basically how I got into Magic and how I got into EDH. Thanks to Matt, who actually was on Twitter, not on Twitter, on YouTube, who asked me to do this video. So Matt, hopefully you're not too bored, and everyone else is not too bored going through this fairly lengthy sort of origin story here. And I hope everyone did enjoy it, and you have a little bit more in-depth look at how I got into Magic and who I am as a person, I guess. This is one of the things about content creation and whatnot and things like this is, I never really push myself to being the face of the channel, but I am the face of the channel. So it's often a weird situation where you push yourself into that sort of space of being a semi-celebrity or whatnot or whatever, especially the bigger and bigger you get and whatnot. But again, that's not my personality. I don't really do this for the fame or do this for the money. I don't think I'm that famous or whatnot. I don't have a very big head about it or anything like that, and I never will. No matter how big the channel gets, I'll always be me hanging out here and just chill and whatnot or whatever and things like that. So again, it's one of those things where, that is what it is. But again, I when you think about those things and how it all works and whatnot, it is a very interesting thing that, you become the celebrity or semi-celebrity to some people because you've got a YouTube channel and everyone sort of is listening to you and things like that. Again, so whatever. Again, I don't really care about that stuff. Again, I want to just help people out who, because I've learned so much in my years of playing this game and whatnot. And there's so many new people joining the game, and there's so many other people that are in the game that are going, wow, I need to find cards, and even sometimes I need to find cards for a deck that I'm trying to build, and I'm going, oh, okay, what can I throw in this deck? What would be good? Again, sometimes you're looking at, well, what power level am I talking about, sort of, I guess, and power level isn't really the right thing, but again, you're often talking about that sort of thing, or what do I want from my deck, things like that. So eventually it becomes like, well, how powerful is this deck going to be, or whatnot? Where should I sit, and should I have that conversation with my playgroup and whatnot, before the game, to say, hey, look, the deck that I have here is a pretty powerful deck. It's not like full on CDH, but it is pretty powerful, and things like that. But anyway, again, like, I really love helping out deck building. One of those things that I like think is one of my core strengths, or has become one of my core strengths about the game, is recognizing synergies and strategies and things like that, and just like honing in on those and figuring out the best cards to sort of use for those strategies. So I often really want to find those ways to help you guys, and that's what the channel's all about. It's all about what I like, and trying to help people find the things that they might like or might find interesting or whatnot, and help people out in different ways, whether that's just with cards or kind words or whatnot, or whatever. Like, again, it's all about the same thing, because again, like, all of us geeky people, I always find, want to have something that we can connect to. And once you're starting to talk about cards, it sort of opens you up. Like, you're not so much talking about yourself so much, you're talking about your deck, but your deck is a reflection of you to a degree. So it's easier to a degree to like have your feelings or whatnot, what you really want reflected in your deck, more so to start with, to start that conversation, rather than like exposing too much of your own personality or whatnot, and exposing yourself to hurt or to whatever to anyone else. So it is one of those defense mechanisms to a degree, or it can be. So yeah, it is really good as well to be like being able to get people to open up and be like, hey, like, you get to really know somebody when you find out what they really like and what they really hate and whatnot, and things like that. So yeah, again, that is like the way that I look at it. It really helps some people out, and it helps me out certainly to be able to do that and be like, hey, like, let's play a game and let's have some fun and whatnot, see what happens. So yeah, I hope you guys are like that as well. I think a lot of people that sort of listen to me or like follow me constantly, or starting to subscribe, now, or have stayed subscribed, are a lot like that. They just want to play the game and have fun and enjoy it and whatnot, or whatever. Same with anime, just like want to chill out and just like watch what they want to watch, and yeah, that's it. Like, have fun and discuss it with people that enjoy discussing the same things or whatnot, and that's it. But anyway, as I said, I've been rambling and talking for quite a while, so yeah, I better wrap this up. But again, let me know what you guys think. You could tell me your own journeys, how you all got into Magic, how you got into EDH, whatnot. Write your thoughts, your journeys, whatnot, down there in the comments below. I'll be sure to try to respond to all your comments. Really enjoy interacting with all you guys, because again, that's just another way we can interact with each other, and further this great community. And that's all I want to do. So hopefully that's what you want to do too. So anyway, I'll see you down there in the comments. Hey, you've just finished watching one of our videos. A bunch of other videos are popping up on your screen now for you to check out, so why not check them out?